Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic, Non-Classics. This is episode number 869, Doubleshot number 763. This is the first of 4 Comic Corners doing in a row. It has been a while since I've done more than like 2 or 3. Like the most I've done like lately in the past 7 months. I might do 1, maybe 2, maybe occasionally 3, but never 4. Yep. Alright. Now, in the case of the 2 trades I got here for this episode, one is from Marvel, the other's from IDW. Yep. First up, it is this really big, thick book. This is X-Men Epic Collection, Volume 5, Second Genesis. Yes, the cover is basically Uncanny X-Men 100. Anybody gets a look at the cover. This book collects Giant Size X number 1, Uncanny X-Men 94 to 110, Iron Fist, Volume 1, issues 14 and 15. Marvel Team Up, Volume 1, issues 53, 16 and 17, and number 1. Now, those of you that are curious, okay, now, people are like, okay, the Giants X-Men and the X-Men Arcane issues are fine, but why is the Iron Fist issues in here and the Marvel Team Up issues? In the case of Iron Fist, this kind of fills in the gap between issues like, I think it's like 109 and 110, I think it is. I'm looking up here. Yeah, because the way these issues come in, it's a bit bizarre. But these are basically X books in chronological order. Yes, I'm not kidding about this. It's basically, that's what it is. The X books released in chronological order. In a way. Yeah, the Iron Fist issues comes issues 108 and 109. And the Marvel Team Up Annual in issue 53 of our team, that comes between 109 and 110. This is probably chronologically when these books take place. That's probably my guess anyways. And of course, last 2 books are in fact the Marvel Team Up 69 and 70. The writing in here is, well, Leen Wein is the writer of the Giant Size X-Men issue, and he writes the first issue in here, 94, and pretty much the rest of this is done by Chris Claremont, with the exception of some of the Marvel Team Up issues, at least. The last 2 are done by him, but the first 2 in here, the Annual and the Marvel Team 53, that's done by Bill Mantlo. The other writing here is done by Bonnie Walford. The artwork in here is done by the late Dave Cockrum. I've heard about this guy, and yeah, the guy is, from what I know about him, he is one fantastic artist. If I could just meet Chris Claremont, I'm asking about it. We also have artwork by John Byrne, Sal Buscema, Bob Brown, and Tony DeZilia, I think it's pronounced, yes. If you're reading these issues from this thing, and you read the issues that feature the debut of the Black Tom Cassidy character, you're like, and of course, this also what was the sort of the debut of Lenz. Like, man, this looks like a few episodes of the X-Men anime TV series. I'm sure that's the case because I'm sure they probably, from what I can tell, they probably did adapt these issues. Yeah, I think it's like issues like 101 to like, actually it's like 102 to like 104. Yeah, those 3 issues were adapted to at least a couple episodes of the series because the comics issues themselves are very similar to that, except they include Nightcrawler in the episodes. Yeah, I do not know why. Yeah, for some reason, him and Iceman were very limited on the show. Yeah, those 2 along with Archangel. Archangel himself, I think he appeared for like, I think he appeared for like a handful of episodes of the original TV show from the 90s, but that's it. But in the case of these particular comics, now, the Giant Section issue is a classic issue, and the cover itself has been homaged a few times over the years. It's been homaged for X-Men Giant Size number 1. That was one of the issues for the X-Men Volume 3 series, which was done by, done by Guggenheim. I don't remember who the writer was. That was so much for that. They did it for an issue of X Babies. They did it for X-Men Daily Genesis number 1. That was a zombie version of it. The first issue of X Static, which was a Giant Size issue, and they've done it a few times since. It's one of those. It's one of 2 covers from this time period that's been frequently homaged over the years. The other, of course, is this particular cover right here. Yeah, KX 100 is the most frequent reused cover in Marvel comic history. This cover, if you look up how many times this cover has been used, this cover has been reused like 20 times. Even once by the X-Men series. It's used also twice by 2 issues of Thunderbolts had basically hommages cover. I think the most last known example of a cover for this cover being homage, I believe it was issue of X-Force from a few years ago. That was the last time I could think of that they've reused this cover, but they've also used this cover for an issue of New Warriors, of the fourth volume for the series. Yeah, it's a very popular reused cover. It's one of two 100 issues I've seen it's been reused. The other has been Iron Man 100. That's been reused once, as far as I can tell, and that was for the 100th issue of She-Hulk. Back in, I think it was like 2006, I think it was. Yep. And of course, we also had the return of Count Nefardia for the first time since the start of Roy Thomas's run. Yeah, first time since the early issue of his when this guy showed up in this very series. What has this guy been doing? He's just been hanging out in Iron Man and Avengers books. He's not that good. He's got a good look to him. He's basically just a mafia head himself for manga, for Magia. I think it's pronounced the mafia's name. Yeah, he's basically head of the European branch of it, and he brings a group of people known as the Anti-Men. Yes, these group of creatures who are basically characters from the pages of Daredevil. I mean, first he brings a group of C-list villains from the pages of Iron Man, Human Torch stories from Strange Tales, and then he brings a group. Now, those villains, some of them are kind of known, but not that very well known. The Anti-Men, if you don't know who these people are, you'd be like if you don't read comics, you're probably like, if you just see them in this trade, you're like, okay, who the heck are these Anti-Men? Yeah, it's one of the most bizarre things related to X-Men comics. Yeah, them fighting a group of Daredevil villains. Yes, these are Daredevil villains. Yeah, that's the thing with some writers of X-Men. They have them fight the villains who are not members of their own rogues gallery. As far as I know, I think they fought maybe one Spider-Man villain, aside from, well, Norman Osborn, obviously, in Utopia. I can't think of any other Spider-Man villain they've actually physically fought, as far as I remember. Yeah. I'm trying to get to... Okay, here are the Anti-Men. This is them. Yeah, apparently they got this way via some kind of experiment. Yeah, and of course, issue 95 is infamous for the death of Thunderbird. And by the way, this is actually one of the very few deaths that's actually stuck. Yes, he has been temporarily resurrected, but officially he's still dead. He's been sort of brought back twice. First, actually, in an event called Neurosha, which came out, believe it or not, 9 years ago. Yes, 9 years ago this event came out. The other one was actually during Chaos War the same year. After that, nothing. The guy is still dead. Yep. We also have stuff dealing with the Mark III Sentinels. And those of you who only read Neurosha are familiar with the character Stephen Lang. Issues 98 to 100 is a storyline that basically features his debut and his death. Yes, this guy is still dead. The guy is never resurrected. Thank you. I don't know why he... Now, Chris Yost and Craig Kyle apparently somehow found a way to resurrect him. A few other people who are known for being big bigots for basically people who are anti-mutant, right? Anti-mutant people. And now I get maybe Bella Trask, creator of the Sentinels. Fine. But why Stephen Lang? I mean, if you don't know who this guy is, like, if you just read the pages in the North, like, okay, who the heck is this guy? You have to read him in here to understand that. Of course, you also have to set up for the Dark Phoenix saga in here. Yeah. Now, in the case of Iron Fist issues, this is actually set, like, right after the X-Men just returned from space. Yeah, I also point out, though, that this is also the storyline that led the character of Durkin, Leandra, who made a debut in these issues, to fall into coma. And Chris Claremont did nothing with this guy. He just fell into coma, and he stays in coma for a good, like, over 30 years until he gets brought back by Ed Brubaker in the Rise and Fall of the Sheer Empire storyline, which happened just, believe it or not, like a little over 10 years ago. Yeah, I think it was back in 2007. Yes, 2007 this happened. So yeah, it's been like almost 12 years now they brought him back. And of course, they kills him off there. And of course, the two-part, of course, in the case of 15, that's basically right after the X-Men return from space. 14 is noteworthy for the debut of Sabretooth. Yep, Sabretooth. And the case of Mutant issues, well, in the case of 53, that picks up right where Marvel Team with number 1 leaves off, which has Spider-Man team up with the X-Men. Yeah. 69 and 70 is just a quick little two-parter. And yes, these are issues done by Chris Claremont. Yeah, it features Spider-Man team with Havoc and Thor to take on the Living Monolith. Yeah, originally known as Living Pharaoh. Yeah, I believe he's a creation of Roy Thomas, just like Havoc is. Yeah, these issues are classic, and these issues published from the period of 1975 to 1978. Yeah, I know for a fact the library's getting Volume 3, which pretty much caps off the original era. But there is probably going to be a Volume 4, and all it's going to contain is... Well, I'm going to give this 10 out of 10. It's probably just going to contain pretty much like all the Spotlight stuff related to the X-Men. Like the appearances they made, like an issue of Spider-Man, like every single Spotlight appearance they made after the K's are three-parter. After the K's are the three-part featuring Archangel. Okay? Next up, it is... Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures, issues 62-66. Yeah, after reading these issues, man, these issues are so bizarre. And this is like toward the tail end of this particular series. Yeah, it's the 90s, so you can tell these things are very strange. The writing in here is, let's see if I can find it here. They apparently don't list who writes these issues in here at all. Let's see, Conran. Yeah. Yeah, for some reason, now unlike most trades, even from IDW basically is not known for doing this, for some reason they don't list the writer of these issues. Yeah, it involves like future tech, some cyborg stuff. For some reason also, a lot of the time the Turtles in this series don't have their belts on or even wear their mask. Yeah, I have no idea why in the world this is, and yet this is supposed to be a tie-in TV show, and yet this is the toward end of the Archie Comics run. Yeah, Archie Comics license published the comic which is tie-in TV show, even though at this point this has pretty much almost nothing to do with the original TV show from the 80s. Yeah, it's an odd book. The issues in here are okay, it's interesting. But aside from that, that's really it. Heck, April O'Neil herself does something. She dressed up as a ninja, meets the Angel Gabriella. That's really it. Nothing really much noteworthy about these particular set of issues. I'm going to give these issues roughly an 8 out of 10. Nothing really much here. Yep. So, that's it for this particular review. Stay tuned for my next episode where we're going to talk about some Nick Spencer trades. Yes, Nick Spencer, the guy who did Secret Empire 2 years ago. Yeah. You get my thoughts on one of his, a title that's actually really good of his. Okay? But see you in the next video. Bye.